It's like dating. Someone once said this to me. You don't ask someone to marry on the first date, right? And it's the same thing with the general electorate. You have to be there, and you have
Hey,
to
say that again for Brad. You don't ask someone to marry on a first date. All right.
Can I ask? Is that something?
That track right. Good joke. Good joke.
Welcome to Cumberland Unfiltered. I'm Gary, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Brad and Jason. And tonight's guest is a native Rhode Islander born and raised. He comes from a staunchly Democratic and Union-sympathetic household. His first job right after high school was as a union member of the Warwick Water Department. He has also worked for the Pawtucket Water Department, which includes Cumberland and Central Falls. At the conclusion of the 2020 elections, he went to Georgia to help Herschel Walker's U.S. Senate campaign. He then went to Virginia to manage a campaign for State Representative Ryan Harder. In 2021, he became employee number 1 to manage field operations for Ashley Kalis in her quest to become Rhode Island governor. In early 2022, he became the Rhode Island field director for the Rhode Island Republican Party. He handled voter contests for all statewide campaigns and down-ballot races. More than 400,000 contacts were made. In 2023, Jerry Leonard hired him to manage his campaign for the special election for Rhode Island Congress. In 2024, he was hired as Election Integrity Officer for the Rhode Island GOP. Currently, as chair of the Rhode Island Young Republicans since late 2020, his focus has become Rhode Island only because of his love for the state. His organizing ability, in combination with face-to-face voter skills, helps Rhode Island voters become aware of Republican candidates. And in his spare time, he serves as secretary for the National Young Republicans Northeast region. Also a regular guest on Rhode Island radio and television, please welcome Ken Naylor Jr.
Gentlemen, thank you guys for having me. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for that was coming
A
out.
lot of you've been rocking and rolling here for a little bit, huh?
Yeah, in politics, in high school, I never really thought about getting involved at any degree, whether it's the private sector, whether it's governmental. It kind of just happened. As you alluded to, I worked for the city of Warwick. I come from a union household. My father was a city worker, so naturally I kind of followed student education. It was not my thing. I finished bottom 15 in my class, and quite frankly, I'm proud of that.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
So, behind the scenes, I worked there for 4 years, and I saw I saw politics, and it's a different type of politics than out in the public. I saw kind of how municipalities operate, which kind of piqued my interest. I reached out to a couple people. It was actually former Mayor Scott Everdesian who I had reached out to originally, and just said, hey, look, I want to get involved. And then he kind of steered me in the right direction. Ironically, a lot of people don't know this, but I had reached out to him to run for mayor of Warwick, and I had no idea what he was doing. And it's kind of good I didn't do that because I didn't know what I didn't know at that time. And I found my own kind of path working on campaigns and building up different organizations.
So another natural question for me is, growing up in a Democratic household, which was union-oriented, what light went on when you decided that, the Republican Party might be something that you wanted to get involved with?
I think so. When I was with Warwick there towards the end, and I'm going to be careful about what I talk about with that city during my time there, but I realized I was a lot more fiscally conservative, and I did see money that was being spent that didn't need to be spent, among other things that, there's a whole list. But I think being fiscally conservative was what really did it for me, and seeing some of that wasteful spending. There's different watchdog groups out there that have kind of monitored this and kind of watched, and not everything they say is false, contrary to belief. So with that said, it was a interesting conversation with my father that first time where I told him. I think he was a little bit shocked. He didn't know where it came from. But again, the whole family, Democratic, I still have those conversations with them. We try to avoid those on holidays, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, he still wonders how I was the red one coming out of the family. So.
No, I mean, I think all of us, I say that Republicans are the people that sign paychecks and Democrats are the ones that receive those paychecks. That's the kind of way I look. Because until you've run your own, you're ahead of the curve, okay? But many of us, until I opened my own business, I didn't realize, what was really going on out there. And you had some experiences in the military that had to do with Democratic versus Republican, right? So
Yeah, I was in the Democratic household as well. My father was a town councilman, a Democratic town councilman, but in Cumberland, you have to be a Democrat. Well, not have to, but it helps. And when I went to Korea, it was my first duty station. The first time I got to vote when I was away from home, I got a absentee ballot, not a mail-in ballot, but an absentee ballot. And I had to get my commander to sign off, and I signed. He looked at it real quick, and he goes, "Holy shit, you're a Democrat?" And I was like, "Well, yeah," because I didn't know any better. I was 19, And he was like, "Oh man." He said, "You're gonna regret that," or something like that. He said, and I didn't know what he meant. But a couple of years later, there was a reduction in force in the military. Clinton cut the military by a certain number of people, and I was one of the people reduced. So, and I'm not. It's odd to say that you're not odd, but it's when you say I'm a Republican in the Northeast, and then you go down south and you say I'm a Republican. Those are two different things, and that was one of the things I was gonna, a question I had to talk to you about.
Yeah, look, it's no secret. We all know this. It's a Democratic state, right? And that's the way that the Northeast tilts, and it's so easy for anybody to get involved and say, you know what, it would be a Democrat, and I like the uphill battle. In Rhode Island, I think that there is opportunity in Rhode Island. I think people want more checks and balances, quite frankly. Look, whether it's all Democrat, I would tell you it's bad for checks and balances. If it was an all Republican state, I would still say the same thing. We need checks and balances and compensation.
So we're going to find out in a couple hours when they all vote on that $1 billion budget.
Yeah, right.
$1 billion additional dollar budget. 15.2.
Yeah, and I've talked to some leaders up there, and they have their own thoughts on it, and they're fighting a good fight. And to answer your question, it is completely different when you go down south.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because, Georgia's a little bit more purple. Virginia, same thing. That's been trending backwards now. But even there, it's interesting because it wasn't so much a problem of being a Republican. It was, you're not from around here. And I dealt with that. Yes, all the time. And, I'm down there knocking doors at times because I want to win. You talk about
the accent gives it away, right?
I had someone pull a gun on me one time. It was in the sticks. I was in farmland, and I'm walking up. It was for Herschel Walker at the time, and he didn't come out. It was like a screened porch, and he's sitting there, and I'm like, "Look, man, I'm just here. I'm a Republican. I see you have a gun. Get out of here. You're not from here." So, I spent a lot of time knocking doors. If I got through that, I'm fine now. Nothing real. I've had some experiences for another time we can get into it, knocking doors. But
then you returned because you found that your efforts would be better used here than they were down there. But it was all part of your journey kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And so I got involved, wanted to get more young people in. I think that was a major issue was we didn't have a funnel of young people coming into the party. And that's where the manpower in the Army comes from of voter contacts, knocking doors, phone banking, even stuffing envelopes. So, Ashley was the first campaign, Ashley Kalis in 22. I was actually on my way to New Hampshire. She had not announced yet. She sat me down in Newport. She said, "We don't want you to leave. We need to retain you. I'm willing to do whatever," and I took her up on that opportunity. I learned a lot, and then RIGOP doing their field program under Madam Susti Yankee, and then elections concluded, and you kind of just like, now what? You wake up, you're on 100 miles per hour. Went down to Georgia for the runoff, and then Virginia, and I learned a lot. After that, Leonard back here in to run his campaign, and then after that, New York had actually hired me through the RNC to do their election integrity through New York, through the RNC in New York. But I realized I kind of forgot why I got involved in that passion. And Joe Powers was the chairman of the RIGOP at the time. I reached out to him and said, and being in a blue state, you don't have a lot of funds to pay a lot of staff. I said, "Look, man, I'll do it for free. I want to come back. I miss Rhode Island. I will do this for free. I don't care about the compensation." And then ever since, I've just been back in Rhode Island. I don't have any plans to leave.
So it's pretty cool. So how'd you end up in Georgia? So after Kalis, do they recruit you down there?
Yeah, so the RNC, they reached out because they had the election that night. Both election results came out, and then they had their runoff. So the RNC was naturally just reaching out to people left and right. And I was like, I have no job now. I'm unemployed. Why not go network? And we had a hotel, like you had hubs, and the RNC would give you the hubs with a bunch of different people. And it was fun times. I got to tell you, there was a lot of good times through it all, and I learned a lot. And there's a lot of friendships I made with people from New York, New Jersey, even California, that I stay in touch with today. And it was nice to see what works in other states and what I could bring back home to work on here.
Do you have any good stories about your time with Ashley Kayla? She's a friend of the show. She was on. We had her on a while back. I mean, I don't know, only her because we know her a lot better than some of these other people's names that you were talking about. So I almost invited her as a guest appearance here to surprise you, but I just think, you know what, we're going to have enough time, so I kind of laid off of that. But.
It's funny. I was just texting her, and I was like, I am so late. I went to the wrong location, and she was laughing. And for those that don't, I went to North Smithfield. I was supposed to come to Cumberland. It was completely on me. So I was texting her saying, you'll never believe what I did, but you know,
So you're still in touch with her then, obviously.
we're very close. You know, she is someone for any candidate, you know, I'm a voter in the primary, and I vote with the RIGOP on an endorsement for who should be the endorsed candidate going into primaries. My biggest question that I ask is, what will you do to grow the party? And how will you build the party? It's easy to run for office, but can you help the party? Will you help down ballot candidates? And in 22, she opened up 2 field offices. And she opened them up to every candidate. When she was paying door knockers throughout the state, she would call me and say, look, I know you have people going out in Woonsocket for me, but make sure whoever's running, they have the door knockers have those candidates down ballot. You need to make sure that they're being handed out too. And she did a lot for that party back in 22, and she gave a lot of she put time, money, and energy in. She had donated a lot to candidates down ballot as well to help them, because she understood that the way to be successful is if we worked. Yeah, she always said big to have big tent mentality, and it stuck with me. I will tell you that I was driving her one day, and this is the story, and I still joke with her about it. We were going to meet the Archbishop, and she's going to hear this story, and she knows where I'm going, and she's listening now, and she's laughing. And I did the same thing. I put in the wrong address on the GPS. So I'm driving through Providence in the middle of the afternoon. She's panicking in the passenger seat. I'm like, actually, I don't know what I'm doing. And then, she was not happy that day. She looks at me and goes, Kenny, you're making me late to meet the Archbishop. And I'm like,
I'll do it when the time comes.
yeah, so GPS's navigation, clearly not my thing.
I'm direct. I can tell you that's the same thing. So
We've had a lot of Republicans on, a lot of Democrats too. And one of the things I always ask the Republicans is, how come it seems, and you know, the segue was you talked about the down ballot candidates. It seems like the Republicans in the northeastern part of the state do not have like a ground force. They don't have a bullpen in Cumberland, North Smithfield, Woonsocket. When Brad ran for mayor, sorry, let me take this out. Thought I could do that.
Steal Janice candy.
Yeah. Stole some candy, and now we're getting it. But when Brad ran for mayor, we went to the Republicans. He ran as an independent. We went to the Republican town committee, and they almost didn't have a quorum. They had to wait like 15 or 20 minutes to get a quorum. There were only 10 or 15 people in the room with the board. And one of the things on their agenda, and if people listen to multiple shows, I've talked about this before with Jessica De La Cruz and Chippendale and Stenhouse, it was, they were talking about, joining with other towns so that their Republican town committee wouldn't be a town committee anymore, but at least it wouldn't go away. They could still function. And I think in a town, Cumberland, where I think when the Republican town committee had 15 people on it or whatever, the Democratic town committee was like at 95. Yeah. And
Vast difference.
yeah, and one of the things they said was, we really can't give you any support. And when Brad and I we met Ashley, or Brad's
Brad.
her girlfriend. Yeah, we met Ashley and went up and started talking to her, and we asked her on the show, and that's where we met her to come on the show. Was at the Young Republican gala? Yeah, last year. Not that. I don't think the last one. I think you've had one recently. Yeah.
Yes, we had on the roads on Protect. We had one there, and
Roads,
I'll tell you other.
That's where we were at.
That's where we were at, but it was like a year ago.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's where
He
you
announced the
heard.
new president, I think, that night. And
Yeah.
Mike Chippendale was there.
Oh, that was Sean the Event Factory, I believe. The election.
Sean Galligan was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was a good dude.
Yeah, so one of the the things that the Young Republicans had said was they had such an influx, like a huge influx in membership since then, and some of the people that had been there years before said, "Wow, this is great. There are way more people here this year than there have been in years past," and that was my first time, so I'd never been there before. But what do you think the disconnect is? I guess it's a long way of saying this to get somebody who's in the know and somebody who's down at the rubber meets the road level.
I've been very lucky to have good mentors. And again, I've learned a lot by going to Virginia and going to Georgia and spending time with other people to understand it. And just like anything, the political spectrum of outreach is always evolving, right? So you always have to be up to date. You have to be a student of the game. What we need to do better as a party is prime the electorate. Right. So we can't go into hiding every year after an election and expect to have better results. We need to carry momentum.
Yeah.
So with us, what we're constantly doing is sending text blasts out randomly. We fire off hundreds at a time. We pull the data, figure out who's what. And it'll be like a poll. It's going to ask you top issues. And then it'll ask you, what do you think about the bridge? What do you think about the budget? But at the end, I always attach a multiple choice that says, if I was going to get involved with the Young Republicans, I want to start a chapter, door knock, donate, start an event. Now, I get that in live time on my phone when people answer that. As soon as someone says, I want to get involved and volunteer, I call them within an hour. And I build that connection. I thank them. And you got to be right on it.
Yeah.
This is somebody that's willing to give their time and energy to help. But again, it's much more than running for office. The cities and towns,
100%.
yeah, it's working with them. Look, it's like dating. Someone once said this to me. You don't ask someone to marry on the first date, right? And it's the same thing with the general electorate. You have to be there, and you have
Hey,
to
say that again for Brad. You don't ask someone to marry on a first date. Oh, yeah.
Can I ask? Is that something?
That track record.
Good joke. Good joke. But my point, is your point is well taken with me, because we ran. He ran as an independent, conservative. We're conservative. He wanted to make a change in the town. We both did.
Still wanted to
Still want to make a change. He's concentrating now on the state level as well as the town. I'm sticking with the town level, and I want to put all my effort into the state. Yeah, but they say all politics are local, and you can see that. You can see with the taxes, with the schools, with everything. You know what I mean?
It's the same thing. Comes down to that fiscal responsibility.
Yeah, but right now, fiscal responsibility isn't what's happening here in Rhode Island. So
Not happening around. It's not happening in this town.
no, but, and you brought up Leonard, the Leonard campaign, the special election. When Brad decided to run as an independent as opposed to a Democrat or a Republican, people were like, "Why?" And a lot of his friends that were Republicans, the Democrats were on board almost immediately. The conservative Democrats that we knew were on board almost immediately. The Republicans were like, "Why wouldn't you just run as a Republican? You're a conservative." And he's like, "Well, there are things that I don't agree with 100%, on both parties, so let's run as an independent, And after the Leonard campaign, a lot of the Republicans came over. They were like, that was our best candidate. We put our best foot forward. That guy was he checked all the boxes, and he didn't get elected, and we just don't have the mechanisms in place in Rhode Island, the machine in place in Rhode Island to get that.
Right.
It's a 10-year. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Let me finish.
If you got a 10-year plan, it's possible, right? But we can't keep coming up with a plan as a party and then abandoning it every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Look, last year, off-year elections, we raised money with the YRs, and we did a lot to recruit. And that's what we did in the off year. And we are now paying, we're now seeing the results. I know you guys just had Jasmine Roy on your show. You were able to send a few people down to Exeter and the Sticks and door knock for her last weekend. Lawrence Magnos in West Warwick, we deployed volunteers. We got to go help, Representative Hopkins. There's some other areas. Jessica Drew Day up in South County, I just talked to her today. We're going to deploy and mobilize for her. And it's direct voter contact. It's all a puzzle. It's social media, Facebook, door knocking, and everything's got to fit together.
So that plays off what I was going to say. So what I didn't realize, and I learned a lot, same thing after the election, because none of us had ever done this before. And just to give you a little backstory, started out with me and him basically, and then 8 people came out of the woodwork in town, ran for different positions in town.
Started out with him. We were driving down Naval Highway one day, and he turned and he goes, "I think I might run for mayor." I'm like, "You're gonna do what?" And then
The rest is history.
yeah, a couple days later, I was like, "All right, let's
Well, what I realized is that at the end of the campaign is what a large percentage of people, you're talking like 85% of people, have no idea what's going on in their own backyard.
Right.
How do you get, because we did the door knocking, we did the social media, we even did TV commercials at the end. And it's like, how do you get to those? Because I can knock on the door and I can see the guy sitting in his couch watching TV and just totally not ignoring me.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the guy I got to get to.
because he thinks
How do
he's
you
trying
get
to
to that
sell
guy?
solar."
Yeah. And that happens all the time, honestly. And look,
I held a sign that said, "I'm not selling solar," because of the Ring cameras.
Yeah.
Literally, a couple days we did that.
well, Jasmine Roy, when we were knocking, for those that don't know, she had a Republican rep for a long time, Justin Price. And Justin, maybe 22, my mind slips me, 24. I forgot when Cotter came in. And we were knocking, and people said, "What do you mean a Republican's running? And we have a Republican already." And I'm like, no, you don't. Yeah, you have a Democrat now.
Yeah,
Times have changed. And look, I get very nerdy with this stuff. I'm very data driven because what we're working on this election is we're going for low propensity voters. Kind of what you hinted at, and what low propensity voters are: voters that don't typically come out. I do it by the last 4. If it's a general election, the last 4 generals. If it's a presidential, last 4 presidentials. You can't merge the two.
Yeah.
Different voter patterns. So what we're doing now is we're going, wait a minute, we can hit every house. We can knock every house. For every 100 houses, the math is you're going to talk to 23 people. That's how many people are going to open the door.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
For what we did, like every 100 houses, like 6.
I looked at Pet Story's time. Phone banking, you're contacting. It's below 5%. Mail is very good. Emails like below 2 to 3%. But what we're doing is we can pull that data. We see we have a Republican. They don't typically turn out. So when we're knocking on doors, we're doing something different. We're saying, look, we know you don't vote. Don't ask us how we know that, but we know you don't. We need you to. Do you need help with a mail ballot? And at that point, they either say yes or no. And
That was going to be one of my questions. Go ahead, keep going.
yeah, and look, that's what it is. Will you early vote and will you vote by mail? We grab their contact information, their email, phone number, and we have systems that will automatically stay up to date with them. It is going to harass them. It is going to send them text to apply. We're going to see that live time. And look, this is where Democrats beat us, and it goes back to unions and special interests. They are able to mobilize, right? If I'm a city worker and I'm sitting there and the mayor comes up to me, whether I believe I'm going to vote for him or not, and he says, "Hey, look, I need you to come out and knock doors," it's really tough to say no to that. I need you outside. When Ashley had her first or second debate, they had all the unions out front, and she loved it. She was smiling at them and waving at them, and half of them probably voted for her. But at the end of the day, they mobilize. When you have, it's proximity to power. Rhode Island's so small that when you have Congressman Magaziner or Governor McKee asking for your help, you're going to do it. And that's where we get beaten.
So we have a high union in this state.
Yeah, so we supported a guy for state senate in District 20, Cumberland Woonsocket, and we supported him against a Cumberland guy because he was pro 2A, and my issue when I said New England Republican is different than a Southern Republican. Southern Republicans It's like when you go to give blood and they ask you the questions, and if one of the questions is an X, you can't give blood. You know what I mean? But I would imagine a Northeastern Republican is like, yeah, you might have a couple of equal signs and maybe a check mark, and maybe it's one's in pencil. But you know, if you don't agree with everything on the Republican quote unquote agenda, you're not ostracized. You're not thrown off the island. But the big thing for us was 2A. We didn't want an anti-2A senator, so Brad and I campaigned for the guy. And
What was his name?
Thompson, Brian Thompson.
Okay.
So great guy. We once in a while we go meet with him. We'll have a drink with him. Not as much as we did back then, but so we go. We grabbed a bus from a friend of ours, and we were going around taking people in the little bus to if they didn't vote, if they called us, and I would go to the polling places. And a guy would always come up to me and be like, "Are you the sandwich guy?" I'm like, "The sandwich guy?" I'm like, "No, I'm not the sandwich guy." They're like, "Are you Brian Thompson?" I'm like, "How do you not know what Brian Thompson looks like?" I'm like, "No, I'm not Brian Thompson." I'm like, "You're holding his sign, and you don't know who he is." He's like, "Oh no, the union just told me to be here." And there it is. I'm like, "Wow." I'm like, "Are you from Cumberland?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Wow." And every single polling location had a union guy. Every single polling location.
It's proximity to power. The governor or congressman ask you, you're going to do it, and most of them probably don't even vote for that individual.
There's not even of the places that he was in Cumberland. None of them, I don't think, were even from Cumberland. They were just, they couldn't vote for him. So maybe they couldn't Woonsocket. Maybe they voted and then came to Cumberland.
Right.
But we had, I don't want to say a really hard time. But we had a more difficult time finding people to hold signs at polling locations throughout the entire day. Yeah. And he just snapped his fingers and made a phone call, and he had people lined up.
And that's what we're up against. Again, it's those special interests, those unions and other, even other organizations that go out there and they mobilize. And look, the fact is they're much better at it. They are. That's why we're in the position that we are in. And that's where, a few years ago, I had the aha moment with the Young Republicans where I think it takes you a little bit of time to find your vision. Everybody says, I want to do this. I want to grow it. I want to be successful.
Yeah.
What is success and what is its value? I don't want it to be a social club anymore.
Yeah.
And it was a work, door knocking, going to the voters.
We had that same epiphany in his campaign after I was like, dude, this dude just comes to the meetings to eat sandwiches. Just coming to eat sandwiches and talk with people. I'm like,
Shoot the shit.
yeah, that's all you got. You
got a job to do.
yeah, got to do the work.
Look, I've butted heads with some members in the organization of the YRs and people on the executive board, and it's an uncomfortable situation. I love them all. We're a big family, but it's like we have to go. It's go time. I said, middle of May, it's go time for us, and we need to be out there. And for any candidate that is a Republican that is running, it's not tomorrow, it's today. You have to be out there door knocking, talking to your voters now. Don't wait. Get your palm cards done and find out what issues. And trust me, it is intimidating. It is very scary to go up to a door you've never been to and ask and talk to them. But you will be surprised at how many people will thank you for being a Republican and taking the time of day to come up to them rather, and ask them what issues are important and ask for their support. It goes a long way, but candidates need to start now.
Yeah.
It's done now. I mean, we're almost at declaration, right? A couple weeks later.
And here's the thing I say all the time, and I told Dave Lebeck from League, I was like, I'm the local level guy. I'm gonna be building the bullpen, and that's what the Democrats in town have. The bullpen. They have the bullpen. They do. We have 17 seats. And we're nonpartisan. The only partisan one is the mayor. He's a Democrat. Brad in Cumberland. Brad ran against him. Before it went nonpartisan, before they passed a nonpartisan thing. I just broke the one. Sorry, somebody doesn't want me to say this. No, before they went nonpartisan, it would have been one independent, one Republican, and the rest were Democrat out of 17 seats. So the mayor Democrat. So 14 out of 17 were Democrat. And now it's nonpartisan, so you don't have to put the letter next to your name, and when you run for a down ballot for town council or school committee, you don't have to declare. But they have a bullpen. They have people waiting in the shadows to fill. and they term limited themselves. So this year they did it all on the same election. So now they're all going, but they have people to come up and say, I'm going to run.
Assembly line.
Yeah, there's one Republican, he didn't have to declare because he's a down ballot guy, he's a school committee guy. One Republican who's a legit Republican in this entire town of 44,000 people that we can look and we can say, oh, there's a guy who's got a shot. One, So that's what we need to do. We need to build that down ballot bullpen, and that would help, at the state Senate level, at the the level you're at with the Secretary of State, Secretary of the Treasury, whatever, all of those, if the guy had a resume, but what happens is everybody, it seems, and I might be wrong, it seems that everybody that runs as a Republican, they think they're the magic bullet. They think, I'm gonna go for the gold first. I'm gonna go, I'm not gonna start in AAA. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you gotta have a resume. You gotta prove that you can do it. I mean, some guys get lucky. Yeah.
And even, I believe Senator Rogers, same thing. I mean, I think he was a council person before he became a senator. And that's how it's got to be. Go run for, and look, most issues, I think you said it early, most backyard issues are school committee and town council.
Yeah.
Go out, build up your base and, and
those are the biggest things. I'm going to tell you right now. The state of Rhode Island is not taking $10,000 a year from me. The state of Rhode Island is not putting my, I don't have a daughter, but if I did, we're not going to put my daughter in a locker room with a full-grown 18-year-old boy in high school, and then prohibit the teachers from telling me that, what happened, the town is. That's what the town is doing. So that's why I'm like, we need to sort this out, sort the town out, and we need to get people that are well spoken, that stand by their values, even if their values don't align with mine. Even if, like, I'm very socially liberal guy, right? Down south, I could never be a Republican, and that's why I was saying there's different colors. Yeah. I'm not really a Republican up here. I'm a socially liberal guy. I'm fiscally conservative. I was in the military, so I know the Republicans are better for the military. For the military. Yeah. I want security for the country, but we need to bring those types of people, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, in my opinion. And I know you're a Republican, so you want the Republican. The same thing we had the conversation with Jessica De La Cruz. Yeah, right. She's like, I'm a Republican. I need to promote the Republican. I'm like, I get it, but me as a conservative, I want anybody who's going to vote the way I vote. But we don't have many of those.
Right. And I go one step further, right? You have these council meetings that, same thing with the state, it's budget time. And they craft their budgets and they're all going up, all of them. And we're seeing every municipality right now struggling. A lot of people don't even know what's going on. A lot of people can't even tell you what the budget is in their city or town.
I bet there's a lot of people who couldn't even tell you what a primary is.
Right. Well, right. We came up with the idea a little late, but any Republican town committee, please run with this. When it was time to do the budget, we were going to run a campaign on getting people to the budget and for the hearing at the council. Because you walk in,
nothing.
There's nobody. No one's pushing back. And by the time people realize, wait a minute, why are my taxes going up? You weren't there,
They don't show up.
Yeah, you could have.
That's his frustration on the school committee.
I go on. I was on an island. I had one guy with me, and I would post on Facebook. I would get eviscerated, by and then other people because the people that agree with you don't want to come out and they want to get beat down. I get eviscerated, but they would be like 600 comments about that we have a thing where the teachers are not allowed to tell you as a parent that your child is transitioning. Your child could leave your house as Aaron and go to the school and be called Ashley. And if you called the school, because, the stat they always want to use is that, transgender children are 3 times more likely to harm themselves, right? But they're only at school for 6 hours a day, 7 hours a day. But then they come back to you and they're only at school for 180 days a year. They come back to you and you're like, oh, something's off about my kid. And you call the school and you say, is my kid getting bullied? Is something going on? And they're like, no, everything's fine. Aaron's fine because prohibited under penalty of being, punished from telling you that your child is transitioning. I put that out on Facebook. Over 3 different Cumberland pages about come to the meeting. It got like, I don't know, 1,000 something likes and like 400, 500, 600 comments or something like that. The meeting, one dude showed up. One guy. Yeah.
One guy.
One guy. There were like 5 people that were like pro. One guy showed up. I'm like, how is that possible? How could it erupt so
Online.
And nobody showed up. The budget meeting for the schools, we're cutting like I think it's 9 positions, 7 or 9 positions. It's a question because a couple of them are going to retire. We're going to be retires, but they're union, And in the budget meeting that we voted the budget in, it was 4-3 because I didn't think that they should cut the union positions. If you're going to teach children, you need teachers. I didn't think we should be cutting the teachers, cut the administration.
Face it, they throw that out there just to fear a guy.
But the people who were going to be cut didn't even show up.
Yeah.
I'm like, how is that possible?
Yeah, and again, I don't. It's tough. It's priming the electorate, right? It goes way before you got to prepare. Like most elections are lost months ahead of election day, months before, weeks before, and it's the same thing. And that's where we have to get better as parties and Republicans to keep getting the message out there. And, not for nothing, I was pleasantly surprised in Warwick. They just had a vote to increase taxes. I think it was for the school department. Yeah. It got shot down. And that is very rare that happens. West Warwick just had a similar vote to increase property taxes. Now, it did pass. But a lot of people would look at it. And they would say, okay, that was a low turnout. They dig in the numbers. It was actually a lot higher than what I thought. And the no's did better than I thought. I mean, yes, granted, it still got shot down.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is, I think once you start really hitting people's pocketbooks and wallets, people are
Stop paying attention.
Right. People are paying attention now, and they're starting to see.
I totally agree with you. It's 2 things the old man always tell me. You don't screw with another man's wife or a man's paycheck. There's a lot of truth.
I hope because if that's the case, then Cumberland's about to erupt in political activism because they're getting hammered in their wallet every time they turn around.
No, it's going to be another 4%.
I try to stay focused on local politics and what's happening in Rhode Island, but I will bring up President Trump. People tend to think, and they look at Rhode Island and they go, look, this is such a blue state, X, Y, or Z. I look at it as Rhode Island as the electoral map of this country, and you break it down in different areas, and there's different electoral votes. If you break down the numbers and you look at so many districts, Trump won. That if there was a legislative candidate, council, Senate, we could have grown. Now, there was other districts where, in credit, yes, there were some candidates that did not do as well as President Trump. That's another conversation for another time. But again, the economy wasn't good at that time. People were worried. Trump, look what he did in Providence. He's moving he moved the needle in Rhone Island.
Woonsocket voted Trump.
And Gary Leonard's won Woonsocket. Yeah.
Never would have expected that.
Yeah, people are starting to pay attention. You can only go down this slippery slope so long. People are gonna get sick of it and they're gonna wake up. It ain't gonna be overnight. Don't get me wrong. It's not gonna be a Republican majority at the end of this election. But if we chip away, we can get there.
So I have a look into the camera question because we have the camera. The look into the camera question is. So a preface is Brad ran for mayor. He spent a shit ton of money, more money than a mayoral campaign's ever spent. Did Facebook. We did ads, magazine ads, newspaper ads, TV ads. We did boosting stuff. We did and we're talking almost $100,000. What's $70,000? If you as a guy this is your lifeblood, that this is what you do. If you had a Republican candidate that had, let's say, short money, 15, which is a normal senatorial or representative. Yeah. Like council's a couple of grand, Senate or rep is like, 15 grand, I think was 10 to 15 grand. What would you advise them to put their money into and to do if they had themselves 5 people, 5 people that were 100% on board with them, knocking doors with them, helping them with their social media.
The only thing that is more valuable than money itself in a campaign, and money is oxygen, is its time, and using your time accordingly and efficiently as possible. Now, you got to be very data driven with your money. You can throw money all over the place, right? But if you're throwing it in the wrong directions, it's not going to go over well. Facebook, for an example, I have conversations with candidates that are running, and they say, I have 5,000 friends on Facebook. How many live in the district? How many are registered? You know, and who's going to actually come out and vote for you? Well, and then the conversation changes, and then it's, we're going to knock doors. And I battle on this all the time. Candidates will say, I'm knocking every door. Don't do that, because what's going to happen is you're going to knock on every door. You're going to talk to a Republican that is going to vote for you anyway. They're going to vote Republican down ballot. They're not registered, or they're registered Democrat. And they may sit there and talk to you and make it sound good. They're not voting for you. I'm sorry. There's a few, like a margin of them that might vote for you.
Yeah.
But they're not going to. Again, it's you got to really be effective with the data and be data driven. And that's my big thing. Whether it comes to social media, it's all a puzzle. It's email, social media, door knocking, community involvement. It's all got to fit in perfectly, but you got to know where the audience is. You got to know who you're going after. You need to break down the numbers and say, okay, and there's ways to do this. If you're thinking of running for office, there is data out there that indicates you have this many independents. But of these independents, I can tell you that 40% of them are Republican. We can tell all that by the different tags. Take advantage of it. The party usually gives it out for free. And you have to really take advantage of it and identify and tailor that message. Look, you want to do a mailer? Good. Mailers help. But if you're mailing everybody the same message, it's not going to work. I can break down data that says this person is an independent. They care about education. So let's hammer them. They're not a Republican. They're really in the middle, but if you can talk their language, they're going to vote for you.
Yeah.
If it is a weak Democrat that's swingable, look, don't send them something with Trump on it. It's not going to work, right? And same thing with Republicans. Send them something with Trump on it, and they're going to like it. You really got to work on the messaging. Again, it is easy just to throw money and target everybody.
Yeah.
But it's kind of counterintuitive. As I said, 100 doors, you're going to talk to 25 people. 5 to 10 minute conversation, sometimes 15, 20. And if you're spending time with someone that's not registered, Democrat, whatever, or someone's going to vote for you anyway, it's a pure waste of time.
Yeah. That's good. That's good advice. Time is the most valuable resource. I tell my kids that all the time. As they get older and, you know, they don't want to spend time with dad, I'm like,
And there was a lot more resources available if I had picked a party. There's more resources because we had no resources as an independent.
Right. So that probably could have helped as well.
Yes. So it was like, dude, it was like, didn't realize that going into it. Once you figure that out, it was like, want to get in support from either side.
Yeah, look, they're, the parties, even the Republican Party.
We're going after the independent. In this town, there's 16,000. It's way more, like 9,000 affiliated. That's 335 unaffiliated.
But again, that sounds like such a major number. But if you break down the numbers even further, it would tell you this person will lean Republican. They're a strong Republican. They're strong.
We ended up getting that information.
No, a friend of mine who's he showed me the information and
was the will to get it.
Yeah, and it was hot. It was what, dark blue, light blue, dark red, light red. That's how they classified it or whatever. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know this guy. Yeah, and they got him as like a dark blue. And he's not like how does that? And you look at it's because he voted in the Democratic primary, because in Rhode Island, in Cumberland, you can't elect a mayor except for the time he ran unless you vote in the primary. Yep. So he voted in the Democratic primary 5 years in a row because he wanted to have a say in his mayor, and then they classified him as a
it'll tag, like you can tag social media users, suburban, union household is a tag.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things that you can even break down one step further to identify what issues that person cares about and where they fall on the spectrum, if you have a fighting chance to get their vote or not. But look, I think nobody's ever going to agree 100% of the time. But
No.
you could, if you...
That's what I like I said, I'm socially very, very liberal. Not very, very, very. I'll say one very liberal socially. Fiscally, very conservative. But the fact, like when I meet a vegan and a vegetarian, and they're in the same group, and I know I can get them to fight by the end of the night. Because they're just immovable. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, you're a vegetarian. Oh, yeah. Oh, whoa. Are you killing baby chickens by eating eggs? And then the vegan will fight. I'm like, here we go. My work here is done.
Like I'm very nerdy when it comes to this stuff, and I enjoy it. And as I said, Rhode Island, if we have a 10-year plan with Republicans, we can get there. And we have to start priming the electorate, getting the message out there now. Look, and just like, for example, whenever there's legislation that Republicans propose, if it gets shot down, that's an opportunity for us to showcase, look, this was rejected. This could have helped you on a day-to-day level, and you blast that to residents with op-eds or press releases, so on and so forth, mail or text. And, not all legislation getting shot down is a bad thing. We have to start taking that thing, sending it back to the electorate and let them know. And that's what I mean by priming them. We can't just pop our heads out a couple months for election day and go, you need to vote Republican. Oh, why?
Yeah.
Right? There's a why factor.
That's what people have ingrained in them. We know that. We had how many people? How many volunteers? Like about 100?
Probably, yeah.
People between signs and volunteers and people were like withholding signs at election days.
We had the initial thing, and
we had 15 people come in every week for our meetings.
Yeah.
And then after the election was done, we did one meeting after that, and then crickets. It was like
crickets.
And we're like, hey, we would send out some exploratory texts. Anybody interested in meeting and talking about what we're gonna? Nothing. You know what I mean? So
It's tough. And in 22. We had Alan Fung running for Congress. We had a good slate. James Lathrop for treasurer. Ashley was running for...
and he got hosed because Trillo ran for the... wasn't that when Trillo...
No, that was the... 22 was the K-list, Fung for Congress. Lathrop was treasurer. There was a lot of candidates. And Susie Yankee at the time did a great job with fielding. I think she had like over 80 candidates. And we embraced for a red wave. Polls had, Mayor Fung up at one point, and towards the end there. And that was the red wave that never came. And it's tough. And it's so tough when you put all time and energy into it, and people have done this for years and they don't see anything back. And it's people that are just giving their time, money, and energy, hoping for something new. But it takes all of us. And then again, the Republican Party is guilty of it too, where they can't go run and hide. We got to be doing trainings for candidates, fundraising to ensure that we can help them. That's one thing with the League of Small Businesses. They're fundraising and giving a lot of money to candidates and Republican candidates to help them run, and that's what we need. We're hoping to supply the boots on the ground. Now, granted, we're two totally different organizations, same goals, but we're providing a resource of putting boots on the ground, knocking doors, and ensuring that we're making our voter contacts.
Yeah, and like you said, I know, like earlier I said, you have a team. It's Patriots, versus Packers, and hopefully you're a Patriots fan. But for the rest of the country, they're just hoping that the team with their values wins, and that's where I'm at right now. Like I'm at, hey, I have cascading values. I want the candidate with my I want the candidate that most reflects my values to win, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat. Because go ahead. Sorry.
No, finish.
No, because maybe it's right now. You said the Republican Party has to have a 10-year plan. Maybe that's part of the 10-year plan, is we just start voting in more conservative candidates. Like I said, liberally I'm social. Fiscally conservative, border security is conservative, huge constitutional rights supporter. Those did not used to be conservative values.
No.
They used to be just the values, but I want candidates that reflect my opinions. And if you're going to say, I don't want, I'm anti-gay marriage. Well, that ship has sailed. This is the new world we're at. and I don't think anybody is there. Maybe some really, really far right people, but I just want my state to reflect what I believe more. And if I have to vote for Green Party, Bull Moose Party, Democratic Party, Republican Party, I'm going to vote for the candidate that reflects my values. The number one problem that Brad alluded to earlier is that 85% of the people don't do that.
They don't pay attention.
Do that.
But also, like you just said there with the word conservative, like conservative is automatically tied to the Republican side. I don't think it needs to be tied to the Republican side these days. Like, you used to have conservative Democrats that would actually, meet and converse in the middle. And, like you're talking about the mention of the league, like the league sports people over party.
Common sense.
So, like, at some point, and because that 85 doesn't pay attention, where does it become? You put the right candidate up on the right side of the coin in order to perpetuate that position so that you get the right person. Like, it doesn't matter what, like you just said, it doesn't matter what party they're affiliated with. You just need the right person in the right seat.
And every candidate, look, they need help, they need support, they need funds, they need earned media, they need volunteers to go door knock. I mean,
Yes.
Look, so we supported a candidate, an independent candidate against Ryan Pearson in District 19, and she got like 40, I think 43%.
Yeah, she did.
She did it with
Pretty good.
yeah,
Pretty good for not having a bank book or
she spent $4,000, and who knows if it was because she was a woman, because she was independent, because people didn't like the incumbent. We don't know, because we were just local yokels who didn't really know what we were doing. You probably could have got all that information. You probably could have analyzed it, extrapolated that. I left guessing why that happened. You know what I mean? But what does it take for you to get that other 7.5%? You know what I mean? To switch to 7.5%. And I know you have a team. And you have to build your team, and you only care about your team. And I mean, I'm sure if you're like, I'm an AFC, Patriots AFC East. If somebody's going to the Super Bowl and they beat the Patriots, I want it to be an AFC East team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So like,
Except for the Jets.
except for the Jets. Yeah, except for the Jets. Other than Jets. But I know you root for your team, fight for your team, but you got a second favorite team here and there, so you want to see them succeed.
it's hard work. It is. It's very hard work, and as I said, it's gonna take time for that to change. And it's a puzzle. It's door knocking. It's phone banking. It's texting. And look, that all takes money within itself and takes manpower.
Yeah.
For me, I believe I have three responsibilities as chair of the Young Republicans. Any chair, they have three responsibilities.
Yeah.
It is earn media, kind of like what we're doing today, and being forward-facing and talking to the electorate. The second thing is recruiting people constantly. And the third thing that is almost just as much as important, but it will follow in suit, is fundraising.
Yeah.
And if you can put all those things together and you can provide those resources for a candidate's not always going to do it on their own. And look, there are times where it's not always on organizations. You still got to fend for yourself, right? If you can't raise a couple $1,000s for a Senate or state rep seat, at a certain point, you got to have the typical, what do we do? And same thing with signatures coming up. 50 signatures get you on the Senate, on the ballot, whether you're running for Senate or state rep. Yeah, and look, you got to be able to go out there and do that. There are still levels of independentness that you got to be able to do on your own to get there. But so we still need support.
I know you're short on time. There's a couple of things I want to get more specific to the Young Republicans. How long ago so we went last year, right?
About a year ago.
About a year ago, right? To the
Young Republican thing. That was the one at Rose of Pawtucket.
was across the street, I think, from Rhodes of Pawtucket.
Yeah, it was.
It was in
I
the.
forgot what they call it. Yeah.
The Constitutional Room was
Yeah.
Constitutional Room, something like that. So we went there, and the stereotype is that Republicans are old white men, and young Republicans are slightly younger old white men. But that was not the case in that room. That room was very diverse. I walked in, I wasn't sure if we were in the right place at first. Not that I given it those stereotypes, but you had, and we were talking to some people. We sat in the back. We went to the bar, of course. That's what we do. And then we sat at a table, and we waited for Sean Galligan to give his speech. He's been on the show multiple times. Mm-hmm. But one of the speakers was talking about the influx that the Young Republicans had. And oh, by the way, the Young Republicans aren't so young. One of the guys aged out at like 40, was it?
Will Grappentine from Bristol. Yes, we gave him the Will Grappentine Award.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The award named after him. But he was 40.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, Young Republicans is 40.
You're out.
Yeah, I'm out. I guess that's pretty young.
I was gonna try to recruit you after the show.
Yeah, come on. I just dyed the beard, so you might be a little confused. But yeah, so you can be a Young Republican up until you're 40.
Yes.
Right? And I'm gonna tell you, that room was
Packed.
It was packed, and it was very diverse. It was very
150 people there.
Then you had a few Jewish people that came.
We had the coalition of Israel come.
Israel come. They came and spoke, and there were a lot of women. And that's one of the criticisms that the Republicans get is that there aren't many women, but there are. And somebody had told us there was a huge influx in membership.
Yeah.
And was that after Charlie Kirk or before Charlie Kirk? I don't remember.
The Mark convention was October.
It was before Kirk.
So yeah. So has there been any movement since then? I was going to ask you if that was because of Charlie Kirk, but if that was
That was in September. This was probably in the summer or something like that.
Yeah, I became chair in 2020, and the only time the YR has made a headline before that was who got in trouble, who drank too much, what happened, like what is the headline this week?
Yeah.
But it took what are we? We're 2026 now. It took 6 years, and I have failed a lot, and I have made a lot of mistakes. But I am not afraid to try.
I have a list right here. I'm going to go down.
I don't even know how to start. But seriously, there's been times where we tried a new event.
Yeah.
No one showed up. It was an empty room, and people don't see that. People only see the good that comes out of it, and sometimes they do remember the bad. I'm learning too, but it took a lot of time, and it took that messaging, and it took that discipline and that patience and consistency of doing different things. I mean, we just had a headshot event, right, where we just did free headshots. Come and get a free headshot.
Yeah.
And brought in a few people. That doesn't bring more as a free headshot, but maybe the messaging wasn't right, and I go back and I figure
I should have said portrait. Same way over there.
What? That's the term.
I also have a great team of people.
Headshot means something different in the special forces.
It's a great team of people that I get to work alongside of. And my biggest thing is, look, I don't know how much longer I'll be YR chair. I do firmly.
How old are you?
I'm just turned 29.
Oh man, you got a long time.
I do believe in a sense that the organization is it's there for you to learn, and it's there for you to grow
And move on.
and you have to pass the torch at some point.
So that's one of the things I tell people all the time. I said, as a leader, I was an officer in the Army, and as a leader, your first responsibility is to build more leaders.
Yeah.
Because you have to have a replacement. You have to have a replacement when you leave. You can't leave it in shambles.
Yep.
You have to leave it to somebody competent.
And that was the first 2 or 3 years when I was chair. It wasn't many people. It was like, I think it was really just a paper organization. I'd send a press release out, and they needed Republican take. Even the mainstream media, they need a Republican to push back sometimes. But even my biggest fear is I resign one day and I'm done, and it's time to hand over and the organization fails, because that means I didn't do things correctly. And if the organization fails at that point, I did something completely wrong. I don't want that. I want to ensure that this organization strives. We could have a great election cycle. I don't know what this election cycle is going to hold, but look, I still think it's important that this organization grows and lives on for a long time. We have a great bench. Now, to your other point, going back, you had asked about different people coming to the convention and being a part of this organization. Look, it's people still care about education. People care about their pocketbooks. You hit them 100 times. They're relentless. We will text you until you say stop. We will call you and email you until you unsubscribe or put yourself on a DNC list. And we're consistent with our messaging. I'm sure you guys saw the millionaires tax that that's gonna hurt. And
the millionaires tax for $500,000, the $500,000 tax.
$640.
You didn't get that one, dude.
Well, they put that out, didn't they? It's actually, once you make your first $1 million, I think, then they tax it.
Over that.
Yes.
So I don't want to
No, go.
get off track, but how would one become? So do you have local chapters? Like, town chapters?
Yeah, we started that. I had told my vice chair, Justin Lake, he's a detective in West Warwick. I said, look, I want to start chapters.
Yeah.
And he literally laughed at me, and he was like, all right, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the idea behind that was we have always done things kind of centralized in one area, and we realized that we're missing Woonsocket, we're missing the East Bay, we're missing South County. So at that point, we're like, look, let's just start this and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's, the thing is, what I enjoy is I'm constantly teaching. When you put somebody in a position of leadership, they take it very seriously, but you don't know what you don't know. And that's what I really enjoy, is teaching them to craft press releases, kind of strategy, how to recruit people. And when they have their first events, they're usually excited. The East Bay in Bristol, we had a forum. We had Mary Perella, who's a councilwoman. Lita De La Cruz joined us. We had someone from the National YRs come in. There was Brendan. We had somebody else there too. I hope they're not watching because I feel bad. But people came out, and it's staying consistent.
Don't worry, AJ will edit that right in. We'll figure it out.
Your lips might not be saying it, but they'll be like,
Bob Sprickers.
Let's go bleed.
Dan Riley, legal counsel in the House Caucus for Republicans. He came out. But yeah, we educated people. People got to ask questions. They got a little haywire there for a second, but people got their answers.
You don't have a Cumberland chapter, I imagine. If there's somebody, not that only Cumberland people listen, but if there's somebody from Cumberland, a young Republican, under 40, young to mid Republican, who wants to join, can they join a different town or a different chapter closer to them, or is that?
No, I would tell them to start the Cumberland organization up. I can appoint in different cities and towns, and that's what we fundraise for. Come in. I want to see your vision. I want to know how you want to do it. Look, I've told people I think their ideas suck, but we'll go ahead with it. Learn. It's trial and error. My ideas have sucked, and that's how I've learned. And we pour a bunch of money into text and email and the event, whatever you need. Just tell me what you need. The event might be good, it might be bad. You're going to learn from it, and you're going to get members regardless. That's what we raise money for. Our organization in the past has been about giving money to candidates. I have been pouring all the money I possibly can into developing city and town chapters, bullpens, to ensure that when it's time to door knock, we're there.
Yeah.
So
to that end, if someone wants to get in touch with you, are they going to do it through your email?
yes, they can. You can reach out at chair@riYRs.com. Go to the Rhode Island Young Republicans Facebook page, Young GOP 401 on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a shout. My phone number is 401-219-8106. That's my personal cell phone. Anyone can reach out. I'm responsive. I do have spam screening, so it might ask you who you are first of all. I'm very responsive, and I want you to get involved. And that's it. So
Nice. Any parting words? I know we've already kept you 10 minutes past just and
we're hosting an event in West Warwick, the first debate for the Republican primary for governor. And I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm here. The jig's up. I didn't tell them where I was going, but they're probably wondering where I am.
yeah, Cumberland Unfiltered, YouTube, Cumberland Unfiltered on Facebook and Instagram. It's pretty easy. Like, subscribe. I say this every show. We got all of our subscribers dumped on YouTube. We still have them on Facebook and Instagram. So if you're seeing us on Facebook or Instagram, please go on to the YouTube site and like and subscribe. You get the alerts. Let us know if you know anyone who wants to be on the show, and we're always willing to hear new voices. And I know lately it's been a lot of conservative talk, but we've had a lot of Democrats reach out. Yeah. We have a lot of other things where. Yeah, it's a political season, so we're gonna get back to we're gonna get back to a little human interest story eventually, you know.
Still dip into the local stuff too.
Yeah.
So and also for any productions, he's Clear Signal Productions.
Clear Signal Productions.
Those in the back.
Yeah,
you'll see it in the background.
Yeah, AJ can dub the name of the person you forgot right into your voice.
All right, well, thanks for everybody for coming, and we'll call that a wrap.